Good morning from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. I'm disappointed I cannot join you today in the Palais, but honored to have been asked to make this intervention. I'm Ray Pilcher. I'm the chair of the group of experts on coal mine methane and just transition, and over the next few minutes, I'll present a few ideas related to the use of the UNRMS and the UNFC for your consideration as a tool for planning and actions are taken to prepare or adjust to transitions in the energy minerals economy. It also helps us to better understand the changes that will impact our neighbors throughout the UNECE region. I want to begin by discussing an important aspect of work done by the World Bank over the last few decades. They recognized and documented the essential issues encountered when planning for a just and equitable transition. As you can see from this diagram, there are three essential pillars: the institutional governance, people and communities, and environmental reclamation and repurposing of land and assets. Along the left-hand side of the diagram, you can see it divided into phases, beginning with the pre-closure planning and extending through regional transition that may take up to 10 years from the time that the transition begins. On the right-hand side, you can see the kinds of financial support that might be expected while this transition is experienced. This is a useful construct and it allows for the formalized examination of the process and to begin planning. Let's turn now from the framework developed by the World Bank to one developed by the UNECE. The expert group on resource management developed the UNFC. Members of the EGRM are very familiar with the UNFC and its application to various resources. When we talk about energy transition, however, at the heart of these transitions is the question of what comes next and how we get there. Oftentimes, what comes next is what's at hand. For various reasons, there is a period of foreshortened time where the consideration of closing a mine and the time that it gets closed is very short. So it's helpful to have tools to be able to examine various scenarios and options. The key point I'd like to make here is that through its depiction of the three axes, which incorporate the environmental and socioeconomic aspects, the technical feasibility, and the degree of confidence that a practitioner has relative to his forecasts and projections, is all incorporated into this scheme. This tool lends itself to scenario planning and examination of various impacts that might be encountered in transition. Another way to look at these axes is to imagine each of them as a vector indicating the degree of risk. So inherently, a project in the far lower right-hand corner of the cube, designated as 314, is riskier than a project in the upper left-hand corner of the cube, a 111 designation. This allows us to be able to examine projects either singly or as a portfolio, which will determine potentially some of the outcome of a transition. We can also use the UNFC to examine coal and coal-located resources in a prospective area. We can determine what the implications are of developing a project that requires additional data. So as an example, we may be looking at coal, but if it's in a gassy coal basin, we also have to look at the amount of gas. So we have to collect that data as we go through exploration and development. However, if we tweak that idea even further, we could be collecting additional data. This could be about other resources that are co-located. This could be rare earths, it could be critical raw materials, it could be water. It could simply be the space and the land that this facility occupies. In the extraction and processing phase of development, we might be considering what kinds of infrastructure has to be developed. And could that infrastructure be multi-purpose? Could we add additional circuits to recover rare earths or CRMs? And then finally, at closure, we could have been, if we'd been doing this properly, planning periodically so that as conditions change, we're adapting and adopting the right processes and the right skills that are needed as each phase comes about. On this slide, I've depicted a project and the issues that must be considered as you move forward at the end of life at a coal mine. In this one, I looked at what would happen with all of the resources involved. That means the human resources as well as the mineral resources. And you can see that white block in the middle actually details some of the processes that would have to be understood and undertaken during the end of life at a coal mine. And in the right-hand corner, there is a block, which you can't see because of my head that's there right now. It actually shows some opportunities that might be available as this mine closes. I encourage you to look at this PowerPoint presentation once it's up on the web and be able to examine some of the details later. But the point here is that this kind of planning is made easier if you use the UNFC within the UNRMS scheme. So when we talk about attaining SDGs, you can't take a better example than looking at what happens at transition. Because at that point, many of the things that we've come to depend on due to that coal mine or that coal-fired power plant existing may actually no longer exist. And so the SDGs such as available and clean energy resources or good jobs or many of the other SDGs are at risk. So we really need to accomplish our goals and attain those SDGs by looking at them incrementally, project by project, and as a portfolio, and as an aspect of countrywide planning, or maybe even regional planning. So these tools are very powerful and very useful. Well, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I wish I were there so we could have a discussion. I know I went through a lot of ideas very quickly and maybe not so adequately. But I'd appreciate your questions, and you can send them to me or to Michael Drobick at the email addresses provided. In fact, you could send me some answers too. I would appreciate that. Thank you.